Hai, Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, ni hao and vanakkam. We meet again. From previous chapter, we have discussed on some of the popular views on purpose of life. On the first chapter was basically introduction to the purpose of life. Now on the third chapter, now we have discussed on the 5 principles for true purpose of life. I think one of the most single important principle for me is basically who is worthy to decide on our true purpose of life. Like I said, even this pen, the car, the flying object and whatnot. To me, the one that's worthy, that knows best about certain things must be the inventor of certain objects, because normally even when I was stupid, the washing machine comes with instruction manual for us to operate that thing because we are the users, and only the inventors knows the detail of how things supposed to be operated. So it goes back to us. So this is one of the fundamental questions that need to be asked before we can decide on the true purpose of life. So that's one of the most important components. In fact, in Islam, this is one of the three interrelated, three most important questions that any man should be asking. Where they're coming from, what's supposed to be doing here, and where do we go from here. So that one cannot do without the other. So go back to our discussion. Basically, in fact, was asked by God Himself in Surah 52, Surah At-Tur, verses 35 and 36. Basically, God asked us, this timeless question: Am khuliqu min ghairi shay'in? Can you guys come from nothing? Can out of nowhere this pen can fly and becomes a pen. The KLCC and everything else can pop up out of nowhere. Or God asks, Am humul khaliqun, or are you the creator of your own self, of this pen? Or the pen can create itself. It's either you can come from nothing, or are you the creator of your own self? And in the verse 36, God further complete the question by asking, Am khalaqus samawati wal ard. Basically, God point out to the vast universe, to the vast sky out there. Even we cannot comprehend the world that we're living in. And the universe is so huge until we don't know what are the boundaries. But we can never know. And God asks, who made all this huge universe? And true to be told, next ayat basically God says, Bala yukinun. No, they are uncertain. They don't know. We will never know what is, who created all this thing. And once upon a time, the scientists, the scientific communities think the universe and Earth basically was there as is. That is one ways of the one to answer, and I think later on 1924, I think Edwin Hubble found out that the universe started from a point of singularity and it expands until I don't know, about 14.5 billion years ago, and we come as what we are now. So that's the thing. That's the first fundamental questions, where you're coming from. I think suffice to say that in this debate, of course, people will ask, where is God? I cannot see God. Some says you need to see to believe. Yes and no. There are many things that we don't see, but we still believe, like the sun. We cannot see the sun with our naked eyes, but we can feel the heat. We cannot see the wind, but we can feel the impacts, the impacts of the wind when the wind is blowing, and we cannot see our feelings. What's the shapes of our feelings, the love, the sadness, and whatnot. But we know the feelings by the expression of the facial expression of the body language of someone. So that's basically in the same logic that applies to in our case. We cannot see God per se, because that's how God's want it to be. But we can see the signs of God in all of us. We are one of the magnificent creation of God. You can just check on in science and everything that you can see in this whole universe, there must be, someone who put it there. It cannot be just coming from nothing. So that's the thing. The point is, of course, there are there are many interrelated further questions that should be asked. Why we cannot see God? There are so many religions, so many gods out there. In fact, if you Google, I think you check in the wiki, there's more than 10,000 religions. They all claim to be true. Yeah, I think if they claim to be true, one thing that you should be coming up is the proof. What make you call that is the true God? Suffice to say, in Islam, the concept of God is very simple. We're going to discuss in the next chapter. Basically, the concept of God in Islam, basically, whoever made us and this whole universe in the first place, that is basically God. To know more about God, to me, second thing that I think is quite profound from Islamic perspective is that this is was revealed as how Muslim believe 1,400 years ago, and it's still applicable now, and it'll still be applicable probably until the end of time. That I think no man can answer this question. Really, there is no answer. Is that you believe there's some higher power that put us from nothing into something, or you just don't have any answers to that. Basic. Yeah, so that's the thing. But probably the good question to ask is why I cannot see God. Why there are so many God? Which ones to God? And another thing that what made me quite amazed in this ayat, of course, is I think there is no other scriptures that that require, that demand from its followers to use their brain, to challenge them to think, and to me, one that attracted me to Islam, that it's have some sense of balance between reasons and faith, and use faith when you cannot, and of course there is answers and wisdom behind that, and it's only whether we want to find it or not, and when we can use reason, it's supposed to use reason as much as possible. I think that is at the end of the day, to me, most people don't even stop and reflect and find time to ask in this kind of question. So most of us, but to be fair to most of you, like I've told you in my first chapter, it's basically for the good first 40 years of my life, I was like many other people. I was a mere follower, so we just follow with the flow. We go with the flow and follow everyone else until you try to understand life better, your religion, and how it relates to the whole world. I think that with that, to me, at the end of the day, there is still 5 more chapters. To me, like I said, it must fulfill 5 principles that must be universal, must give some kind of happiness, must have some kind of justice. It gives you, moral values, and lastly, it must appeal to logic, to sense of logic. With that, I thank you. We'll discuss in the next chapter. Is basically on, is there really a God, and why we cannot see God, or which one is true God. Thank you. Assalamualaikum. Peace.